show you their skills live and in person. Watch as they chop, grind, and weld their creations into existence right before your very eyes. Feel free to ask questions at any time directly to your host, Pat Jansen. The doors to the shop are open, so pull up a stool, kick back, and welcome to the Grease and Gears Garage.
Welcome back to Grease and Gears Garage. We are took a little bit of a break, get something to eat, make Evan's head a little bit smaller. I am not Pat Jansen. I am Mark Proschetti. I'm from Flat Broke Chops and Rods.
You wish you were
Me
Pat
and
Jansen.
Chris Callan from Flat Broke Chops and Rods and Cycle Source. Bring this whole show around to premiere, show off some of the people's skills, some of the people that we know in the industry. Evan was up earlier making a gas tank. It's Evan Favaro, Speakeasy. And now we have Dustin Maven. He is going to do some metal fab stuff for us. What all do you have planned here today?
I'm going to go over metal finish and the techniques involved in that and the importance of actually doing it right for the painting process.
Right.
Something that I see get overlooked a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Which we had stemmed on a bit, a little bit while making this, trying to, get your product as nice as you can, not only for welding, cleanliness, and all that, but also trying to make it as good as you can. The fabrication, the product that you build, the finished product is only as good as the guy who actually builds the product. So if you take as much time finishing it, getting the metalwork right, doing a nice weld, getting it as clean as you can, the guy that's going to do the paint work and the cleanup work, that's usually my end, is way happier with the product than if it's just beat up and rolled across the garage floor. So, also keep in mind, anybody out there in whatever it is, TV, Facebook land, wherever all we go out on here, if you have any questions, or even audience, whatever, just feel free. You can get on there and send a message in, ask these guys questions, ask pretty much anything you want, and we'll see if we can get up some answers for you, maybe help you through some problems you're having. So I guess Evan's going to try and finish up the tank that he started, the side, and then Dustin's going to jump in here and...
So I'm going to finish tuning up this one side that I made, and then he's going to start welding it together and show the metal finishing process, welding and metal finishing process. In the meantime, I'm going to make the left side of the gas tank, so that way, hopefully by the end of this, we'll have a complete shell of a gas tank. This is just like a Sportster-based kind of looking gas tank that I was making earlier.
Well, here we go.
So while he finishes, I'll start with, I just got some flat metal that I brought to kind of show the importance of metal finishing for the paint and how it can not just make it easier for the paint guy, but it'll also, it'll fail, your product will fail. It can be welded solid. You could have a seam where you've welded two panels together. It could be welded solid. It can be, the weld structurally won't crack. It holds gas, whatever. But when it gets to the paint shop, it has what we call a cliff edge on the weld, which is where the two panels weren't lined up right, and when you ground your weld, you quickly hit one side of the material, and you weren't able to hit the other side.
Right.
And then that edge right there, what happens is the body filler, it expands and contracts at a different rate than metal. So if there's an edge underneath it, as it expands and contracts, it'll form a ring. You'll see the panel.
Yeah.
It's a lot more common in the automotive world. Shave a door handle or shave a tail light, something, and you got a cliff edge around it. You can see where when it went to the paint shop, you can easily see where the panel was welded in. And if that's the case, you'll easily see it, after it's body worked and painted and polished out.
Sure.
The body filler may not crack, but you'll have a ghost line, and that's coming from, those two panels not being
which
lined
again
up correct.
saves the body guy time. When you send it there, he doesn't have to worry about hammering that seam in, getting some mud over it or whatever it is to make it go away. This is more of a finished product, which, again, there's enough time. If you look around some of these paint jobs, we have enough time in the lines and the design and the what goes into the finish, concern ourselves with edging in the first place, let alone having to worry about the edging from the metalwork also.
Right.
So I mean, big factor if you're on on my end or the paint end of it, the finishing end gives you a better product.
It'll give you a better product.
Which is what you're looking for.
And there'll be a skim of body filler on a lot of stuff. There's no problems with that. Body filler is not your worst enemy as long as it's applied correctly over clean material.
You're right, yeah.
But something like a cliff edge, it's often overlooked. It'll cause it to fail, later on.
And it'll make it, you'll look at the whole rest of the car, bike, whatever would be beautiful, and you see that line.
There's nothing worse than seeing that ghost line. Yeah.
Evan's line earlier was to look for the light line that you were hunting for, remember?
That's right.
And a lot of people take that light line and work it up and down a panel, and man, as soon as you see that line from the bad metalwork or even bad bodywork, you can't take your eye off of it. It's the first thing that catches your eye every time you look at it.
How about especially on like an old Oldsmobile or something where there's a long, flat, and straight. That's
Right.
when it really comes out.
Oh, yeah.
When you have a literally 18-foot long straight line.
Straight line,
And that's
yeah.
where the bodywork comes in, where you were using 8-foot 2x4 to sand the side.
Right.
Side
And
of
it's
the
a
car.
shame because you do so much work to the whole car or the whole bike, and that one spot's what draws everybody's
Yeah.
attention.
Yep.
That was a big challenge for me. I restored a Porsche 356, and there's not one straight other than the bottom. That whole car is just
Right.
so. That's why I love those cars, because they're very feminine. They're very just curvaceous and
Yeah.
just beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful
But
body line.
That's the hard part, is getting that, achieving those lines, and blending those panels because they're unibody. That's where that comes into play really well.
Right.
Yeah, it comes into play big time on the paint end. So, I guess I'll let you get started planishing. Oh, I'll skip, since we're going to blend this tank, I'll skip the flat process. There's
Right.
no, everybody understands that. It just lines up, needs to line up flat. I'm going to start with a little harder one. I'm going to do a T-joint.
Right.
And it's often not metal finished good enough because it's more difficult to get in there and actually take the time to finish that. So I'll start welding that and doing that while he's doing that. So.
It's going to
make
be a
some
little
noise.
noisy, but you can hear over. He'll turn your mic down. We can still hear if
This is a
Dustin
little
wants to
noisier
talk
than
or-
the English wheel.
Yeah, it is, but you forgot your
Yeah.
English wheel. If you'd have brought it.
We don't have that.
Have to turn my
we don't
English-
have an English wheel up here.
No, we had one.
What has in past tense?
Usually we go back and we'll ask, hey, who's coming up? Who's doing what segments? And, Evans, who's so forgetful. Thank God for his beautiful wife. I'm shocked he has pants on when he goes to work in the morning.
It's true.
But it was never brought up. And, and the nice part about it is again, part of the reason why we do what we do is to showcase the fact that anybody out there, don't get me wrong, you may not be AMD, Bob K might not be knocking on your door because your product's so nice, but anybody can build these bikes.
That's right.
This is something these guys here are giving you a tidbit of their technique and things that they've run into to give you the ability, if you're having a small problem with something, to take the next step and find a way to achieve your end game. So,
Some of the nicest motorcycles that I've seen, especially doing this whole circuit, are built by dudes that build one bike out of their single car
Brian
garage.
Butera, let's say.
Perfect example is Brian's
second
over
bike
there.
he
Yeah.
built won the Golden Bolt.
Yeah.
And he's here now competing to go to Germany and represent the United States
Right.
on a bike build. So, it's super possible for anybody to bring a bike into play in a situation like this.
Right.
But and here's the other factor. We didn't have an English wheel, and Evan made
Was still able to
almost
do it.
identical. So you can
Right.
do it without. We did it for years. I mean, we built bikes in barns
Yep.
and made frames, and in sheds and made frames and rebuilt motors, and didn't have the tools. We found ways around it, which is the
Sure.
pretty much the American way, I guess, till you get to the tools that you have. But
Yeah, the most important tool is the one you can't buy.
That's
That's
right.
the passion and the fire
Yeah.
that'll get
Yeah.
you doing it.
that's it.
you
And we mentioned with Austin and Brian up here the other day was one of the other big factors. One of your other best tools is your phone to call for help. Especially when it comes to the frame, the wheels, stuff like that. Don't play games. You definitely want to be safe. You don't want to get out there on something that you're going to go, get wheel slap with and end up killing yourself on. So, common sense, if you're having an issue, don't be afraid to reach out and ask somebody a
Right.
question. There is no stupid questions. Unless Evan's asking it, but there's no, no, there isn't. And a lot of these
right.
guys have no problem taking 5 minutes and explaining stuff to you.
Sure.
And if they don't, you don't want them around anyway. So,
Right.
in all reality. But, good set that we didn't have the English wheel because you did the same thing without it.
Right.
And it didn't even take that long. Just,
Sure.
a little bit more, working from one machine to another. So, but kudos. You've done a fine job.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's
gonna
see
make
what
some
we got
noise
going
real
on.
quick.
Hey, we can sit up here and talk all day long if you
Sure.
want.
What do you wanna talk about?
I'm not Pat Jansen, but I think I'm
Yeah,
sort
keep
of
talking.
feeling
I can't
a
hear
little
a word
bit
you're
like-
saying.
Right. Oh boy, you're noisy.
Okay, so I'm going to turn Evan off while he's working.
Well, we, you know, I guess while we have a minute, we can take a second for thank AMD guys, Bob Kay and Kevin Dunworth for everything they're doing here. If you guys could see the other side of what's going on in this building right now, people walking around checking up some amazing motorcycles, people put their hearts and souls into, and couldn't be prouder to say that, you know, through Flatbroke, me and Chris have a couple bikes here, 4 or 5 bikes sitting in here. You know, the Dave Pirowitz paint show's going on outside. The Cycle Source bike show's going on outside. There's bands playing. There's vendors out there. There's people all over the place that keep coming in here to suck up some of this cold AC for a minute. And, you know, couldn't be happier that we're welcome here by the Blue Ridge Cherokee Run, and been here. This is our 4th year that we've been here doing this. And, you know, nice to have these guys come up. This multiple times they've all been here working with us. So, but being a small shop, like the rest of these guys are, to have that collaboration of all the other shops and, you know, and you guys out there being a part of the industry, it makes it easier for us to be a part of the industry. So, couldn't thank you guys more than you know, we try and bring whatever we can to the table to help you people out. So, thank you very much for the time and the reaching out to make sure we're doing a good job.
Right, to get
But definitely send some messaging. You got a question? Feel free to ask.
Obviously, he's not as fine-tuned being.
What do you got there?
There'll be no worries.
Yeah. What do you need?
Angle grinder.
What do you want?
The cordless grinder. This right here. Perfect. Thanks. I'm gonna take this off.
What, you don't like handles? You don't like a nice handle in your work? Here, let me put that over here before it goes flying and hurts someone. Okay, buddy, make sure you don't stare at the blue light. I'm gonna strap that down. Pull another clamp. How's it going, Dustin?
You don't got a 90-degree magnet, do you? Nah, just hold it.
Is that? Well, Dustin's getting set up to do his T-weld. And of course, Evan's over there grinding away. Really not sure what he's doing at this point. This is almost like Top Chef or something. Got stuff going on everywhere. You know, the nice part about this is not only being able to come here and bring bikes to the table, but to see what other people bring and, you know, the reactions of some of the bikes that the people build and people appreciating the craftsmanship and, you know, all that goes along with it. Because these guys work their asses off and spend a lot of time and a lot of money to make these bikes what they are. So it's an honor to be invited here. Definitely worth the drive for us. We do a lot of events during the year, and a few. This is one of the ones that we look forward to coming down for the AMD stuff. We do have the Tennessee Music Revival coming up. If nobody's heard of that, you ought to look into that. That's a music festival at the Loretta Lynn Ranch, and Bill Dodge does a thing called the BC Invitational. That's pretty off the charts. All different bike shops invited to bring their bikes and show their bikes, and it's a display. It's a layout of all the motorcycles. There's no winners, there's no losers. Come down there, have some fun, listen to some great music, and it's a really, really good event. Buck and Carey have gone out of their way to make a big difference in making that happen. So, you know, hopefully everybody checks it out and maybe shows up and spends some time down there with us. Yeah, how's it going, Evan?
Huh?
How's it going?
Good. I just started forming this side over. Just in the beginning stages of getting this shape down. So that's the easy part. Now you gotta put some shape into it.
Yeah.
And so just like I did on the right side, now I'm doing the left side, where I formed it around, but now I gotta suck that whole corner down, bring it back in.
And then you'll do the same thing. You'll put your marks on it and then shrink it down.
Yep, I'll use my paper template.
Yeah.
Suck it down, put all my marks,
Right.
and kind of go from there. Where I go from the shrinker to the planisher, back to the shrinker, just back and forth, in that process.
And end up with a matching piece just like the other one. The other one only took you 20 minutes. I mean, I'm shocked how fast that one went.
Yeah, I got to mirror it. So that's the thing when you do it, you got to make sure you don't make two lefts,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's bad enough we have two left feet half the time. We don't want two left tank sides.
That's true.
It's not going to hold gas.
That's it. Get those other dies.
What's up?
The other dies.
I think it was.
I'm the die guy. Make it. And obviously changing the die on this again, from the big rounded top to a bit of a flatter, as he's obviously trying to do something a little different than the top right now.
I'm going to try to put a little crown into this panel here. It was an 18-inch radius, if I remember correctly. That's the sweep of that panel.
Yeah.
And what I did on the right side and what I mapped off of my buck there. So I'm going to do that here, put a little tension into this panel, put a little crown to it.
Yeah, and like you'd said before, a lot of that comes down to giving it some strength.
Yeah. So really, like putting shape adds a lot of dent resistance to a panel. So see like how flimsy this is right now.
Right.
And then I'll pass that through a few times, and you'll see I won't even be able to do that.
Give it some strength and structure. Well, let's make some
noise. I need a lot of that in my life.
Hey, that's what that
beautiful wife's
for. Evan actually proposed to his wife on the Grease and Gears stage.
No, I proposed to my girlfriend.
Did he really? Girlfriend, fiance. Yeah. Well, wife now.
Right.
So on the stage, like it was
was it during the show?
It was pretty interesting. So
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got married. Pat Jansen, who, sadly enough isn't with us this weekend here, who's normally the host and I'm filling in for, and hopefully, Pat, I'm doing an okay. I'm making you happy, Pat. I know you can't hear me right now because something's wrong with your ear, but read my lips, Pat. But he actually married the two of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Which had to
be. He called her on stage, and then he did the ceremony at the church.
Yeah, that had to be.
Because he is
fairly interesting.
Not only is he a motorcycle builder, he's an ordained minister.
Yes, he is, which is scary.
Very.
So yeah,
he's actually very professional.
Yes,
too.
he is, but that
very
doesn't.
Professional
not on
minister.
this end, he is.
I was wondering where he was.
Yeah. Pat's a bit of a. He's our handful. It's like having a kid with you at all times when Pat's with you.
Funny.
And two when you're with him.
Huh?
And two when you're with him.
It's true. I got some good stories with me and Pat.
How's it going there, Dustin?
Well, I'm getting this inside welded, hopefully.
You can see just from that quick pass how much stronger.
Yeah, getting a lot more strength in it. And like you said before, that flat panel, that flat metal is way more tendency to take a dent, take a, so we were talking about buckling before, like the hood of a car. If you don't put a little bit of an arc on the hood of a car, you pull it out in the sun, that thing's going to buckle in, pop out, it's going to move.
Right. just marking those shrink marks where I want to come back in with the big shrinker. Put some shrink into it, and you'll see just after on my first one, this thing will fold right into it.
Yeah, and like you were saying before, how much of a difference it makes to be able to, take manipulate that metal to get those bends in it. It happens really fast. You have a little wobble over there.
I don't know if that'll work, but it might. I'm just gonna come in and put some shrinks up in this top. That's
How's it going, Dustin?
Oh, it's going good. I got the inside welded. I did blow through one little hole, but that's all right. I was able to fill it up. Keep moving on. So now, in the world of metal finishing, I would just grab a basic grinder to start with, and I'm going to hit it, knock down the high spots, and see how much more I may need to fill up.
Right.
On a T-joint like this, it would be pretty hard to get it in one pass, enough weld in there, without grinding the material too thin.
Right.
But I'm going to hit it, check for knock the high spots down, make sure if there's any low spots, I'm going to fill them up, and then I'll show you some more of the other tools I would use to get this finished to where it would look, ultimately like one piece of metal,
right?
Without putting too much heat in it,
Yeah. How's it going over there, Evan?
Great. See, just from that few kicks, how that came down and sucked it in, and I'm starting to get that front curve come in. So now I'll take this after I shrink it down, hit it with the planisher, and smooth it all out, because obviously it's got a bunch of greases and stuff in it, but at least I started to
hit it
bring
with
it
that
in.
Evan English wheel, as we're going to now call this. Now you're going to have to wait a minute because I just stole your air.
Just blow it and blow it.
Well, I could do that. Give me a minute. Well, a little more action going on up here this time compared to just me and you,
That's right.
It was a little bit boring up here.
Well, that's because you were here.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking the same thing because you were here, so.
Aw.
But I forgot you were actually making the piece of metal I wasn't, so.
That's it.
So what are you grinding off there, Dustin?
Well, I'm going to hit this high spot. Obviously where I blew a hole, I had to fill that up. So I'm going to hit that first and run along this seam. Just to get the high spots down right now.
Right. Like he was saying before, he's cleaning up a spot that burned through. So, like we had talked about, it happens to everybody. Even the best of welders have issues. So sometimes to see, like yesterday with Austin and Brian, finding out how they'll lay a aluminum rod in the hole to fill certain holes. So like the little techniques could really go far if this isn't something you do every day. If this is new for you.
That's where all the technique comes into play. We're learning your amperage, learning your tungsten diameter, and your heat range, and how thick is the material. What's your base material? What material are you adding?
It's not just welding, sticking two pieces of metal together. It's learning a little bit about the metal. It's understanding why it's like that.
Right.
You got a body hammer? Oh, I see it's labeled.
Oh, God. Hold up, one more.
What do you need a hammer? Body hammer? You need a dolly?
Oh, there we go. That'll work.
There you go.
Thank you.
It's my baby. Be careful.
You guys are noisy.
And for those that don't know, that's one of the main benefits to TIG welding versus MIG welding in sheet metal is that you can hammer it. You know, if you had MIG welded, the MIG welds, they solidify a lot harder. They have a lot more tendency to crack if you do need to hammer on it.
Right.
So, you know, TIG welds are a lot softer and they can take a lot of hammering.
Lot less heat.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, in general, you're shooting for less heat.
You're shooting for less heat, but you know, TIG welder is a constant input. You know, where people are a lot pulsing with a MIG welder a lot more often. So, you know, people have better luck with sheet metal at first with a MIG welder than a TIG welder.
Right.
Takes a little more finesse, you know, but it's a better
room to move.
Yeah. Like he said, there's a lot more to a TIG weld than a MIG weld.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, everything comes into play.
Yep. A lot more coordination. That's for sure.
When I'm doing, that's the benefit of, like you were saying, like TIG welding is, like, say I do part of a fender on a car, and there's a weld seam down that fender of the patch panel that I made. I'll come back and hammer that weld out.
Yeah.
To bring from the shrinkage from the weld, I can come back, hammer it out, and relieve that panel.
Right.
Because welding, you're shrinking, you're putting all that tension into this panel. You come back in, you hammer it out. One, it makes it nice and smooth. And then it relieves that tension and gives you that shape back.
Right.
You know?
When MIGging, you don't have that.
Right.
It's not as easy to get that finished product.
A lot of the time, if you can hammer out a weld real nice, where the weld will disappear between a planishing hammer and a wire wheel, you don't even need to come back with a grinder.
Right.
Like Faye Butler, who I was talking about, he doesn't even own a grinder.
Right.
It's just.
Yeah,
you know,
well,
but that's 60 years of experience later.
Right.
But
And mastering that, like we were talking about, you know, it's not just the welding, it's knowing your material, the molecular structure of either adding to or taking away from, not going too far.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's good information. And if you don't know what kind of metal you have, again, probably the smartest thing to do is YouTube it. Call somebody that you know that's going to help you know your heat, your penetrations, what you're looking for. It's going to save you a lot of extra work.
I spent a lot of money on books.
Yeah.
Metallurgy books. Miller's got a whole beautiful book set.
Yeah.
Of all types of different welding and the processes and the science behind it.
And procedures and like that's and you can TIG weld, but to get really good at it is the time that you invest in it.
Sure.
Just like anything else.
And having a good foundation of that science will only make it better. It's the foundation of being on the pursuit of craftsmanship.
Right.
You have to understand, like, why did that metal just do what
Like
what am I doing when I'm beating on it?
Like you just went through having to hammer that, straighten that back out. If it would have been perfect, you wouldn't have had to do that. But, you know, like you'd said before, it's rarely a perfect world. You're never going to get it exact the way you want. The ticket is to find the way to repair your issue. I think that's what separates the craftsman from the guy in the backyard that's just hammering something together. So, and obviously one of the reasons that we bring all these people here is because these are the guys that have found a way to pretty much master what they're doing right now. Right. So it's impressive to see what they bring to the table, and even more impressive to watch how they do it. So, which is awesome to be able to watch that.
I'm going to with a sharper radius die on the planishing hammer, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to smooth out all these imperfections from the shrink and all the highs and lows.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back in with the planishing hammer, smooth all that out, get that radius I want to achieve. But also in doing so, I'm going to establish my light line.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come down the edge of this panel and fade it out just like I did on the right side.
Yeah, which if you weren't here last time, Evan explained one of the things that he does is he puts like a piece of metal like this, he'll lay a plastic bag or something over it, and what he's hunting for is when the light shines on it, it'll give you a contour, a nice line around the product that you're working with.
Right.
So what he's saying is when he's going to plenish hammer this piece of it, what he's doing is going to try and start creating that light line, that nice, the actual line that's going to create the look of the body of the product or the piece that he's building.
The other thing about making something that's symmetrical is it's easy to do it once. It's harder to do it twice.
Yeah,
that's where the previous education of the pursuit of craftsmanship comes into play.
Right.
Where it's like understanding the metal to do it twice.
Right.
Because you understand the process to get there. It's not just
it's super easy to make one thing look really cool.
Right, but can you do it twice?
Two, you know, we did side panels for War Pony, a bike that we had built on the progressive stage at the IMS shows.
I remember that. I did the side panel on that or something. Or no, Chris did, and then I smoothed it out or something.
Yeah, we actually have them here, and it was great to make one.
Yeah.
And then we had to make the second one, and like you can obviously see there's contours and flat spots, and to make the other one, which is on the complete opposite side of the bike, you'll never see the two of them side by side. Yeah. Like you're saying, one of the hardest things was getting that product, getting the finished product like we wanted. It was difficult. We made the first one in no time flat. The second one, on the other hand, took some time.
That's it. I'm gonna make some noise.
Huh?
My mic's on right now.
It doesn't matter. No, it's not on. But go ahead.
I'll start to pull down as I'm doing this, and it'll you'll see it start to come curl over, and I'll get that radius I want to achieve to meet the top that I made already.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not just coming through nice and like straight. I'll come and I'll curl it down and try and bring that metal back over.
That percentage, because he measured with a gauge each of these, and I think it was 2 up here, and that's what he's trying to get a nice straight line without having to do any work to it. As little work as you possibly have to do to the outside edge.
Right.
He's not listening to anything I say because he got earphones on.
Yeah, so I just look at him and shake my head and say, right.
It's a thought that counts.
So as I was...
Hey. How's it going, Dustin? Uh-oh. And the nice part about this, watching Dustin do this end and prep himself, get the nice clean edges, he's the one that's going to actually weld all this back together for Evan. So, to do those butt welds, he's showing multiple styles of those butt welds while Evan makes noise. And if you can watch Evan, he's working that body line, working that light line like we were saying. If you can look at this piece of metal in the light, he's working this edge as nicely as he can to keep that at a 2% bend, which is difficult because he'll have to keep laying on it to find the direction. Yeah, what he said. I love when he agrees with me. What are you doing? Stuff flying? This is why we can't have nice things, Evan, because you break them. Yeah, what do you think?
This side panel is a cool example of the difference between metal shaping and metal forming.
Right.
In the beginning when it started, it was just a piece of flat sheet metal, and I formed it around to get this curve, but I shaped it up in here. And the difference between forming and shaping is form is you're just bending it.
Yeah.
Shaping is you're changing the thickness, whether you're shrinking or stretching using a compressive force like shrink dies or thumbnail dies or planishing hammer or English wheel, all use compression in different ways to either thicken or thin out.
Yeah, and like we said, forming, I don't know, but everybody's seen the episode Billy Lane bending the gas tank metal over his knee. That's one direction. That may be a start, but your finished product, that can't be the way you make the whole thing.
Right.
Somewhere along the line, there's got to be form that has to come to it.
And it's crazy how much strength just that adds,
Yeah, how's it going over here, Dustin?
Can I steal that air hose?
Huh?
Can I steal that air hose for a second?
Yeah,
Evan's just screwing around over here, so he's up here wasting time.
So now this side piece fits my form pretty well. You can see how the top started to curl over.
So you're happy with that? You're done with this piece of equipment?
I think so.
Should I take?
Maybe afterwards, after it's all welded, you can come back in later and planish it if you need to.
Later, though.
So for me, what I like to do is stay away from I'll grind with an aggressive grit first. So that first pass, I took a little 36 on it, knocked down the high spots.
Right.
You know, I seen that, you know, the weld was, I mean, you could have metal finished it out. I'm not saying that you couldn't, but I am telling you, if you had a metal finished it out, you would have had such a little weld left,
Right.
you know, on a T-joint area, which this joint really, it's uncommon in the motorcycle world. It's a lot more common in the car world.
Right.
You know, if you're putting gills or body lines in the car, recesses,
Yep.
that's where, you know, it gets hard.
A lot more platform to work with also. You got to keep in mind,
Right.
you know, a bike's such a small pallet.
Or like those lines that I showed you how to push in, you know,
Yeah.
this would be a prime example inside a tight corner like that, where you got to
Right.
have enough material to grind it out right. If you grind it too thin,
Yep.
you know, good crack, especially on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
You know.
Especially on gas tanks.
Right. Right.
Yeah, especially on gas tanks.
So I'll hit it with 36 first. Once I come back and I know I've got enough material, I'm going to go ahead and go to 80 grit. And I'm going to stick with that for a while because it'll take a little longer, but I won't have to get those 36 grit marks out when I come to DAN and Scotch Brighton later on. So everybody does it different, but that's just how I do it. You know?
Right, and that was another thing we stemmed on here, like to show you something and give you a general idea of how whether Evan or Dustin or Xavier or you know Austin or I or Chris would do it. You take all these tips and then you find your own technique. I mean, everybody has their own technique and their own touch to things. So, I mean, it's not like in any sense anybody's ever saying this is how you need to do it. You know, these are the steps that you need to take, and as long as you follow those steps, you have a good chance of actually coming up with a good finished product.
Absolutely.
But you know, these steps are only laid out there for you to take a chance of getting that product. It's how well you go through these steps. It's going to be your final product. How well it's going to be.
And a lot of that just comes with experience of building them. You know, like real quick, hitting this with the hammer real quick. Over the year, I'm able to get it where, like, just fresh off the hammer, you got a nice, a real nice tight fitment there. You know, where there's minimal.
Right, and again, look at the fit. I don't know if the camera can catch that fit, but I mean, this is 2 hours earlier and 20 minutes up here. Throwing at, imagine, like you'd said, 25, 30 hours in a normal situation just to get to where you're starting to weld this thing together. And in a few hours, he did, you know, it without the magic of television. I mean, this is live. There's no, you know, we don't take a minute and touch any of this stuff while we're gone. So just to get to that point, you know, that's years of experience also. You just didn't wake up this morning, hey, I'm going to go to Cherokee, present a cool bike I built, and make a gas tank on stage. So
I've probably, I mean, I've built probably 150 gas tanks. I don't know, you know. But again, it's super frustrating in the beginning. I can't tell you how many I throw out. You know.
Yeah, a lot of products wasted, and I think we stemmed on that yesterday with Austin and Brian, that some of it's super expensive. When you're into stainless and you're into titanium, and, you know, Will Ramsey built a titanium frame. I mean, that's unheard of.
Sheet metal, too.
Yeah, the whole bike's titanium. Like, it's odd because the whole bike flexes. If you watch them ride it, it almost looks like the bike's twisting because it is twisting. So, I mean, and was told you can't do it, and guess what? He did it. He did an amazing job. But
and he also shaped titanium, which is borderline impossible.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to do.
Titanium doesn't really have a memory, so it has so much spring back. It doesn't want to move. Even on a molecular level, titanium is right where it wants to be. You know? So shaping it takes so much extra work. You know, I might even put some beads in that. Hit that with a bead roller. Does that thing work?
Whatever you want to do. It's up to you.
Hey,
Bead
Mark?
roller's sitting there. Dustin wasn't going to use it until next one. Pull it out. We'll mess with it.
Yeah. I'll throw some beads in it.
It'll give you something to do instead of standing around looking at me, acting like I'm not doing anything, which usually I'm not, but that's besides the point.
Yeah. So this is a bead roller. This is a Miller Brothers bead roller. Beads are not only decorative, but they also add a lot of strength and rigidity to a panel.
Yeah, like the floor. We were explaining the floor in a car, nice flat piece of metal. You can bend it and twist it, put 4 or 5 lines in it with the bead roller. You can put your whole family on that section. It's not going to collapse.
Hey, Mark.
So as nice as it is to have the decorative end of this, structurally, it's a necessity.
Hey, gentlemen, we had one question. There's a lot of machinery up there, benders, planishing hammers, all that type of stuff. If you don't have the cash to start stuff, out with stuff like that, what are the suggested ways to learn how to do this stuff?
A wood stump and a plastic mallet will go a very long way.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can literally build this whole gas tank with a stump and a mallet.
Right.
You can put tucks into sheet metal to shrink them, and you can also stretch in a dished out stump.
Right.
Yeah, Joe Melky sells some really
Oh my God,
nice
yeah,
mallets for
Snap
that,
Fab.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, check out some of Snap Fab, some of the stuff he does. He does some amazing work,
Yep.
and he uses wooden hammers,
Stumps.
leather bead bags, wooden stumps.
Yeah.
But yeah, almost anything. Like I said, when we were younger, I mean, we have pictures of bikes that we built in sheds with, you know, we strapped a piece of metal to a piece of wood, and that's how we made our bends.
Right.
And yeah, pitches, you know, pick bars for, you know, for doing landscape work. It's amazing framework you can do with a pick bar.
That goes back to the passion, you know. I mean, if you have the passion and the fire, you know, you'll acquire the tools as you progress
Right.
along in your skill set, you know.
Yeah. Evan had stemmed on that before, how
Right.
all of a sudden you just, you know, one day after all these years, you wake up and walk into your shop and you're like, holy crap, I have a lot of stuff here, you know?
I think a real craftsman is born actually
Hands-on.
that's how they become a craftsman, you know, from acquiring their tools along with their skill set, you know.
Yep.
If you had a huge bank account and just went out and bought every tool that, you know, the top of the line tools that then you didn't know how to use them and you
Right.
hadn't earned that
I mean,
skill set, it wouldn't
hey,
do no good.
You were asking for the body hammer before. Chris will tell you, I have 2 body hammers that I've been using for 25 years, and they're literally like, if you mess with my body hammer or you leave it out and it's sitting somewhere I don't like it, I'll go out of my way to climb over you, grab that hammer and move
Right.
it. My hammers, my irons, and an anvil, and that's all I ever did anything with. So, you know, like we had talked about before, to the materials or the tools that you use to get where you
Sure.
you end up acquiring them.
Just because you buy the biggest, best stuff
Doesn't mean you know how to
use it. Right.
So that's actually how. And this is my best piece of advice is always keep an eye out on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yep.
Yeah.
That's how I acquired my English wheel and my planishing hammer.
that English
my
wheel.
English wheel setups with all the dies, probably 8-9 grand.
Yeah.
And my planishing hammer is $4,500. I paid
Right.
$500 for it.
And
This
keep in
dude
mind,
that bought the equipment.
the nice part about it is I know
the
that
one tank was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah, right. And I know. I mean, he can. I mean, they can both stem it. But Dustin, we talked about this before. I mean, this little setup right here. We have a full-size planishing hammer, and then we have a medium one, and then we have this one. And this is $200, $225.
Right.
Comes with 5 or 6 dies. The thing works fantastic. Mittler Brothers. Hit them up on the internet, see what they have. They have we have a Mittler's Brother English wheel that normally travels with us. They have all kinds of crazy tools that are cheap. They're affordable that you could buy and use at home, and they're small. This you can take off the weld table, which we had talked about before. This may be one of the best
Right.
things
Yeah.
that any of us have. I'd said it's the last thing we load in the trailer when we leave an event.
And they're
when we get
affordable, too.
home, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And when
Super
we get home,
affordable.
it's the first thing back in the shop. Guaranteed it's out of that truck right away.
Yeah.
But Dustin was saying Eastwood.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, I actually made, and this is for those, you know, a little more daring, but instead of spending a bunch of money on a planishing hammer and an English wheel, you know, I bought the dies for my English wheel, of course, but I just built my own wheel, just
Right.
a frame. And I built my own planishing hammer. I was able to get some plans online.
Yep.
And I built my own Helms hammer, and both of them just run off sewing machine motors with a clutch.
Right.
They're absolutely not the best, but they work. You know, I run 16 gauge on them. They're 8 to 10 years old now, and they're still running sewing machine
Right.
motors and still bending 16
in all reality,
gauge.
this is an air chisel. That's
Yeah.
all that this is an air chisel.
Yeah.
So you get your top chuck that fits right in the chisel. You buy the bottom dies. So you could make any of it, but again, don't go out of your way and spend $25,000 on tools.
Right.
You're going to come down the line and figure
Learn
out
how to use them first.
I don't know how to use it. It's now sitting in my garage or in my shop collecting dust, and Evan ends up buying it for pennies on the dollar.
Right.
Yep. That was one of the things, like, when I was at OCC, we had all they have all this insane equipment, but it was from companies sending us all these tools. It's like, well, we don't need any of
Yep.
this stuff. It's
Yeah.
like we use the base, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, basically what you see here, we don't need these crazy $1 million machines. So
right.
Well, a hammer and a sandbag is, you know.
And we get lucky. We go through, like, Mittler Brothers. We do a lot of stuff with them, and they'll ask us, you know, hey, what can we do to help you? You know, what tool could you use? And they'll give us a hell of a discount. And between, you know, all of us guys, they know they're going to get some exposure. And,
right.
and you know, it's a really, you know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours industry at the rate that it goes, because everybody being involved, we're all so close now, which is something that's nice compared to how it used to be. There's a camaraderie now with the, you know, with the people that are in this room, the builders that are in this room, that if you're having an issue, you know who you can turn to.
Right.
You know, I mean, just to get down here. Here we go. We have a bike show going on outside. Pierwood's Paint Show's out there. The Cyclosaurus Bike Show's out there. And one of the people that we depend on for a lot of stuff is Xavier Mueller, who's behind the computer right now doing everything for Chris, and also has a bike in the AMD show. So it's like such a tight-knit group, and same thing with the tools. Like, everybody works together. Evan needs something, and we have a connection. We're going to make sure Evan gets all the help he can. Same with Dustin, and they do the same thing for us. So, you know, don't go out of your way and don't blow a lot of money on something that you might not ever use again. You know what I mean? There's a million ways to skin a cat. Not that I'm going to skin a cat. Don't send me hate mail because of that. Send Pat hate mail because of that. But yeah, there's a million ways to resolve the issue that you're looking for. And I'll tell you the easiest thing to find out how to do it, YouTube. Go to YouTube and check it out. Come to Greasing Gears and go back into the history of the shows and see if you can see one that, you know, we had maybe see if there's a show that maybe we had done what you're looking for. I think we're still plugged in.
So
yeah.
Is it on?
Yep.
In my metal finishing arsenal, this is, and as you can tell, probably my most used tool. And it's something I learned, you know, over the years, that I've got all kind of different grinders and tools to reach in all kind of places and slick sheet metal out. But this thing right here, just spinning like a, you know, it's a DA that you can spin like a grinder and just leave it in grinder mode with a piece of 80 grit. If you can get to it, obviously it's limited because of the size of the pad, but if you can get to it, it really does a really nice job and gets it really close to where I can actually just use a DA and be done with the panel. Now here's a perfect example of when to stop. So, you know, I've hit it with this, I'm finishing that joint out.
The camera spinning around.
So I still have one little tiny low spot that I'm not willing to dig out. I don't want to dig that out because it would just make the panel too thin. So now's where I'm going to stop. I'm going to go back and just fill that up. And at that point, I should be good to go ahead and sand that down one last time and move forward to where this joint would be done. And if this was a body line that we had talked about that was inset, you know, this would, you know, represent that edge right there.
Right.
You know, and how to finish it out.
Hey, Dustin, we got a question on what's the difference between a grinder and a DA?
Okay, so a DA spins an orbital pattern. It barely removes any material. It does remove material, but very little. It doesn't spark for the most part. You're not going to throw any sparks.
A DA almost throws itself in 3 different directions at one time.
Think of like a figure eight, spinning a figure eight for layman's terms.
And then to boot, a DA also has a soft pad. So which
you can buy pads of any softness for either one. This is they're all the same. So this is the same pad that will go on any DA. They have the same thread on all of them.
Right.
So you can buy pads of different hardnesses at most, you know, paint supply stores.
A grinder normally won't have that soft pad.
Yeah, this thing spins like a grinder, so that's why it's throwing sparks. It's both.
But watch how it spins. If you can see the camera, how it has a wobble to it.
Right, but it's not engaged in the DA mode right now.
Yeah.
So you lock it in. It probably has some wobble in it because it's bent from years of use. Yeah, so right now, it's spinning like a grinder for all practical purposes.
Yeah, right.
The reason it's doing a good job is because of the DA pad and that 80 grit versus like if some people grabbed a flap disc. Like a flap disc would be not something you'd want to get down into that joint. It's going to dig.
You never want to use a flat wheel coming up on a finished product.
No,
anyway.
It's going to dig too deep, remove too much material.
And the other nice thing about the DA is it's an orbital, so it never spins in the same direction. It's always moving. You can lift the DA up and take some of the pressure off of it and actually watch it spin. And I can't remember what the name was. What was the gyro
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name either, right?
Gyroscopes or something. I can't remember what they were called, but same thing. It always goes in multiple directions because when it comes to body work, you never want to track.
You know, I was
sand the same way.
I was a painter before I started doing metalwork. You know, that's when I was younger. That was my first dibbling in all this, was doing some, you know, automotive. And I actually got to where I was a painting on commission at a body shop. You know,
right?
You know, and so I got a good understanding of the painting process before I started working with metal. And as my skills progressed over the years, I learned that working with metal is just like sanding cars, you know, or sanding body filler. You're going to start with a rough grit on body filler and move up, you know, and eventually you're sanding a clear coat with 5,000.
Right.
Obviously not so intense on the metalwork, but it's still the same process. You're going to start with a rougher grit and work your way up to a fine grit if you're looking for a nice
piece of paper
finished product, you know.
Yeah, I'll wet sand things, and I'll have a piece of wet sandpaper. I'll be on the desk, and somebody will walk in and pick it up. I'm like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "It's sandpaper." No, it's not. It feels like regular paper.
Right.
On that clear, it's huge on the clear. So yeah, there's such a, you know, you can go from extreme to so fine you can't even tell it's on there. And another thing people don't realize, one of the things most abrasive, air is an abrasive. So if you don't paint a car, you don't clear a car, you drive it long enough, that air is going to strip the paint right off of it down to the metal. So yeah, the DA and grinder, I mean, you could use a grinder with a really small or a really fine piece of sandpaper on it, but you'll never get the same.
Yeah, I mean, for those people that want to do a nice job, I mean, at my shop, I have a cart that's just a grinding cart.
Right.
And all my, you know, I put little studs up in it, you know, holes in it like this table, and every tool stands straight up. And it has all my roll-lock disc, all my Scott, it has everything that's associated with metal finishing in that cart, so I can just go up and get it at any time. Of all the tools, I still, there's just 2 or 3 that I use 80% of the time.
Right.
The other 20
just sit there.
Sit there until I need them every once in a while. So for people at home, like you said, you don't have to. Right now, I've used 2 different grinders thus far, and I'm almost done. I will use probably 3 tools total on this. Where the other tools come into play is like those body lines that we put in, and say this was a turn, and you got an inside radius. That none of that's going to get to. So that's when some of the more expensive tools can get in there and get that
die grinders,
you know, and things of that effect.
Dremels and stuff like that. Yeah,
I have it all the way down to a Dremel. So,
right.
You know, and
how's it going over there, Evan?
It's good. I'm adding a couple bead rolls into this top of the tank, which I'll show you in a sec.
Maybe that last line, we'll do that. How many turns we went through and we did it in Sturgis, remember?
Right. Yeah, try to remember that tension, that way how many rotations to get the same depth.
You know, so obviously you can see he draws lines, his start and stop lines to keep it consecutive. It's like we had said before, it's really hard to do the same thing left and right side, you know, do it 2 times. It's not really that hard to do it once. To mimic that sometimes is very trying. Now, and the nice part about adding the strength to this also adds a really decorative finish, you know what I mean? You can do some really nice stuff with it.
I still got one more to do, but you can see how it just some details. And it'll make it really, really strong. Another thing to keep in mind is if you want the bead to go down or up, that's aesthetic or whatever, depending on the application. These I just chose to do down. That just happened to be the side I mapped it out on. But up also gives a really cool appearance as well.
So obviously him sort of drawing the design out, but what we were talking about before in Sturgis, we had just gotten this and we were playing with it, and the pressure, the depth of the die is each turn. So once you get yourself situated, you get your initial line, then with more turns, gives you more pressure, gives you more depth. So gives you a more of an impression in the metal. But sometimes you have to watch, you go too far, it'll cut. It'll stretch the metal so far, it'll actually cut it open.
Yeah.
So
you also got to be careful because doing these beads, I'm actually almost flattening the top of that tank and I'm kind of straightening it back out. So I might have to come back in and put some shrinks on the side and planish that out to get that arc back into
it back out.
Bead rolling is an art in itself.
Oh yeah.
it takes a lot of practice, especially when you're doing straight lines. But there's guys like Jamie Jordan, Austin Martin does a shitload of it.
If you've noticed, it's the Jamie Jordan edition. But yeah, these guys do artwork with these things.
Yeah,
it's
literally
unreal.
draw pictures with this.
Yep.
It's really incredible.
Yeah, he did
stuff.
did a lion on a hood that's it's off the charts. And again, getting to know your tool, getting to know your tolerances, that's a big thing. And like you can see, Evan drew lines, his start and stop lines, which is also a trick to get used to learning where you're starting and stopping and how far the wheel can go into the line before you've gone too far.
And it's really easy to ruin an entire piece in this process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, me and Chris found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
So, but being one of our first times we actually used it, it only took one try, and we figured it out. So,
or if you go to the end and forget to flip the switch.
Yeah, that was how we did it. So, but then.
So the next disc that I used was a Scotch-Brite disc, which is super, super handy. You wouldn't really think it would be, but the physical color brown Scotch-Brite for me has become the perfect tool to use right before I'm going to DA it. So by the time I'm using that, I'm almost done with the the metal finishing at that point. So now the Scotch-Brite's been used, most of the material's slicked in. Now I'm just going to go with a DA. That'll fine-tune that in, and it'll look like virtually an invisible weld.
Can we get that on the top camera here and see how nice that inside edge is? Is it hot?
No, maybe just a little warm, but.
So you can see how nice and clean that inside edge is. Like, in all reality, being the body guy, that's if you even. That's a finger full of finish mud.
Right.
If even at that point. They make fillers now, spray fillers that you don't even have to pull the
polyester.
So,
Yep.
What are you thinking, Evan? Want to dance?
Back on. So putting these beads in there, which you could probably see better on the inside of it, flattened the top of the tank out, so it changed the whole shape of my tank. So I hit it with the kick shrinker to bring it back down, but now I need to hit it again with the planishing hammer to smooth those marks back in, and then get it right back to where it originally started at without the beads.
So we're pretty much ready for this to start getting put together.
Yeah, I just got to hit that with the planisher real quick, and then it's all up to mid.
Yeah. Hey, and we were talking before about the DA and the grinder. To stop and show the difference between how it looks, you can see that it's such a dirty, hashed up piece of material because that DA never spins straight. It's always going in like a star direction almost.
Yeah, like figure eight, whatever you wanted to call it.
It gives you a really dirty like finish to it. Is in all reality, that's what you're looking for.
A lot of the raw body bikes that I've built, countless hours with a DA.
Oh yeah.
Raw body bikes.
Yes. And it's amazing how you can actually take an actual hump or a spot out of it.
Yeah.
Getting they ever do the hot and cold rag deal?
Yeah.
You DA enough, you get enough heat in that metal, you can almost push on it with your hand, give it a couple taps, hit it with your body hammer, and get a good result out of it, not having to do much body work to it.
Yeah, that's like the old school way to repair a door panel. I did that once.
With the heat and the...
Yeah, restored, oh God, what was it? It was an Oldsmobile, 50s Oldsmobile for Paul Sr. And I did the door skin because I didn't have access on the back.
Yeah.
I did the whole torch drag.
Yeah, I worked at a shop that was probably in my early 20s, and that old guy, you weren't allowed to use pullers. That's what he wanted you to do to everything. He wanted you to get it as close as you could. Yeah. There was no pin pullers. You weren't allowed to use them there. Which, like I said, that's great because it taught me a whole other angle of I never did that before.
Yeah. You can also make a bad situation way worse.
Oh yeah.
With that torch and
if
rack
you're not
technique.
if you're not paying attention.
So for all practical purposes, that's done, and you'd be ready to move on to.
Yeah, like obviously, look at the
Still, I don't.
You know what I mean? The quality of that being finished. I mean, I don't know how well you can get in there and see, but that's a really nice finish right there. So that's something. That's the body guy. If you sent that to me, I might send you home with a case of beer. You know?
Yeah, that would be ready to go to to the body shop. And we do all our painting in house at my shop, so it's real. I got a certain standard, and so everything, all the metal work has to be like this before it ever goes to the next stage of primer, body filler, paint, things to that effect. Just because it's got to last a lifetime.
Yeah.
These guys are paying a lot of money for this stuff. I can't have problems later on. So.
And the sad part about it is, like, especially with us, we push ourselves to the edge so far that when it comes to the paint work, we have like 14 hours to finish it, do the body work. Like, it's always, because we do so much other stuff. And to get a product like that to have to work on is a dream. Because I've painted 3 bikes in this room and didn't even remotely have a finished product like that, and also have the time, and still made them here. I mean, 2 were at least 14-hour non-stop paint jobs.
Sure.
Multiple colors, maybe 12 different steps, up to 30 coats.
That's why I started building raw bikes.
Yeah, that's it. Say, look at all
wait
the
for
time you
damn
save
painters
yourself.
anymore.
I could have slept before I went to Sturgis this year if that would have been a raw bike. That would have been great.
I'm going to just
So what's your next step, Deb? Where are you going to go?
Well, I think I'll wait for him to get his tank, and then I'll
Ready?
just do an outside corner, which is a whole lot faster.
Yep.
Much easier to do as far as the finishing
Well,
goes.
he's
So.
getting
gonna,
close.
2 seconds to planish that.
Yep.
I'm going to stretch that shrink out a little bit and relieve the back tension in this panel to bring that back up a little bit, and then she'll be ready to start tacking.
You are ruining this thing. Now, obviously, we were talking before that to mess something up, I think one of the biggest lessons you can learn is how to repair something you've screwed up.
Right.
So, my dad always told me when I was growing up and working with him, go ahead. And I'm like, I'm going to screw it up. And he'd tell me, that's what I want you to do.
Well, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning.
Right, exactly. He said, you're going to learn your biggest accomplishments are going to come from your biggest mistakes. And he's 100% right. He taught me how to fail and then repair my mess up, Just throw that right on the ground.
Oh, I get it. You got the bead roll over there. And you're more than welcome to attack it if you want, since it's your tank.
But at the last minute, deciding to use the bead roller on the tank, it takes another 20 minutes try and fix the top of that tank to make it right. The difference in the quality of the finished product with the bead rolled lines in it compared to not having them, could make a huge difference. What do you think? Have you mastered it?
Yeah, so now that's definitely that'll be close enough for you to
Right, welded in.
work it out.
We got the awards at 5 though, don't we?
What's that?
Awards are at 5, ain't they?
We the awards at 5. What time is it? Yeah, we got at least get started on it. All right, we're trying to make sure that we don't, if the awards are still going to be at 5, we don't want to interfere with any of that at all. But yeah, we can keep going until Bob K's ready. AMD,
you're welcome to attack it if you
AMD's going to do their awards today, which is picking one of these beautiful bikes out here in the show, and definitely don't want to mess up with Bob on that at all. So.
All right, weld it.
Okay.
Okay, hurry up, weld. Yeah, we can keep playing with it until they're ready to go.
I wouldn't do that. If I'm seeing it.
Do you want to tack it since you know how it needs to go together?
Whatever you want.
It don't matter. It's up to you. I feel like I want to let you tack it since it's your panels, you know how they fit. So.
Okay, so pretty much.
There you go.
What do you need?
What?
What do you need?
Nothing, man. Just you.
Oh, see, that's what I like about you, the truth. So we are done now with the plenishing hammer.
Yes.
Okay. Let me get it out of the way, and that way it's going to give you guys a little bit of room to work and move.
It's my dollar. It's my dollar.
I think you put it in your bag, did you not? I thought you did.
No.
I don't know. No, it wouldn't be in any of those. Under the helmet, somewhere nice.
Somewhere.
We are MIA a dolly right now. Don't know if Chris had moved it earlier. Did it get put under here, maybe?
What is it?
The dolly.
Oh.
For the hammer, it was laying on the. I do not see it, Evan. I do have multiple dollies. I don't know if one would help you.
What kind of dolly is it? A flat dolly?
Yeah, it's a, what about a 2%? What was it out there?
It's right in my bag, right where it
He had it
belongs.
the whole time.
Yeah, there you go.
We're up here looking for a missing
How
victim.
many amps you want?
Break
How
out
many amps you want?
fresh gloves. You can just run me around. What do you got on there? 120 is fine. It's high, but I'll just do it with the pedal. 90? Do 90. I mean, this tungsten's a little thick, but.
No, I want to grind it.
I guess as they get lined up,
Yeah.
Dustin wants Evan to tack the thing and get it set up for him.
Yeah, it's his panel, so I'll let him tack it together.
You make me put my money where my mouth is. So
Dustin's using one of my old tricks. You built it. That way if you mess it up, it's your fault, not mine. So I like that idea.
How does your torch?
So you had brought a new bike here, Dustin, did you not? You have last year's and a new one this year too, right?
So what now?
Bikes, you have another bike here compared to the one you had last year.
Yeah,
correct?
I just got a chopper. It's a low budget build. But,
Yeah.
You know, just a 300 tire chopper.
Yeah.
Springer front end.
Yeah, very nice bike. We were all looking at it night before last and you pulled in. And this is your second year, 2 in a row, right?
Third.
Third year?
Yep, third year.
Oh, that's right. It's first time. Yeah, first.
Right.
You did the same one, 2 different classes.
Right.
Yeah.
You just shake it a little more.
Using another man's welder is like using another man's whatever.
Oh, wait. Oh, I figured trying to get everything out of the way. There you go.
I had to weld that inside panel with you planishing.
You know, Evan's doing something that Dustin and Austin and Brian the other day was explaining to everybody how to tack the metal together prior to using the rod. Tack together, get yourself set up. And that way you don't have to worry about, you know, if it's off, snapping it back off and no filler, nothing to do any, no extra work on yourself. Needle hand there. Hi, Bob. Well, Bob Cave, AMD right here. One of the men responsible for all these beautiful motorcycles out here. Oh yeah, yep. 5 o'clock still. Yep. The legend Bob K, which his protege Kevin Dunworth right behind him. You don't have a choice. He's putting you there, so you don't have a choice. But 5 o'clock still, right? Yeah, you got to make it. Hey, look at me. Pat didn't show up. They threw a microphone at me. 2 weeks ago, I wasn't allowed to have a microphone, Kevin. I know, but I'm getting there. Pat's gonna start texting me some
I can
stuff
hold
to
something
say.
if you need me to.
So, we still good for 5? Going for 5? Right on.
Right.
Yeah, those are two of the guys that are responsible for the bikes and the show and everything that's going on here. So Bob is definitely a legend, pretty much in this industry. Need some holds there, Evan?
What's that?
Need some holds there? You good?
All right, tack it.
How about I hold you tack? You slide it towards me here. I'll hold on to it while you tack it.
Yeah.
Again, the tedious part of all this.
Yeah, that's the stressful.
Yeah, just making it all come together real slow. Now I know why Dustin said, "Hey, can you tack that for me real quick?"
Yeah, he shaped it, so he'll be familiar with exactly where it wants to go.
Right. So, and again, like yesterday, we were going over all this, you know, how to tack your welds, how to get things where you want them and make things, you know, work for you, to your advantage.
Right. This will all come down. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I won't do it, yeah.
So it sure isn't easy. There's a lot of moving and holding and stretching into place and stuff like that. And like Evan had said before, maybe having to grind some stuff out or move some things where you need them to be. You know.
Yeah, and it is to be able to even shape those panels in a couple hours on stage. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we're really, you know, fast forward, you know,
Oh, that's
10
it too.
times, you know, faster than it would be done. So just to show, you know, trying to run through all the basics to show people how to do it, but obviously
Yeah.
a lot more fine tuning
Like
when
we
you're
said
building
before,
a
this
final
is a
product.
25, 30-hour job.
Right, we're
and it's
doing it in
getting
2
done
hours.
In 2
Yeah.
hours, if even. Well, your segment was an hour, and we BS through probably 3/4 of it. So you got a whole 45 this time so far.
I mean, really, that's probably good enough just to do a corner.
Yep.
Hey, fellas, I want to let you know and everyone in the audience, too, that in about 15 minutes, we're going to be doing awards up here for the bike show. So 15 minutes, we're going to take a break from this and let the bike show awards go off, and then we'll be right back with you. We're actually going to run Grease and Gears Garage a little long tonight, so don't go anywhere after the awards. We'll be doing the rest of this segment. We got Ricky Lewis coming up. We're going to run it. As long as you guys are hanging out with us, we'll do some stuff.
I love that sound.
I thought that was your head.
You want me to weld that up now, or do you want to save that outside joint for later? It's up to you, man.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking. Getting there. I got to bring
Right, I know, I figured.
this down a little bit. I might just do that by hand.
I'm gonna try and push down on
Pick
it
it up
while
after
you're.
the show. We're doing it.
No, this is where I'll just come in with my dolly and hammer on dolly a little bit, and like
It's up to you, man. You tell me.
usually in the shaping process, I'll spend a lot more time getting it to fit
Right.
the buck
Yeah.
properly before this process. But like how there's a gap here, but I can easily close that in. I'll come in with the hammer and dolly and
Right.
suck that top
Make it
down.
come down.
Yeah, because like if I tacked it there like I did earlier, just to kind of hold it in
don't
place to
wanna
help me out, but
stretch
then I
out.
broke it again. so now that panel's free.
Yep.
Because if I kept that tack there, this is locked. It's not going to go anywhere. I need somewhere for that material to relax and to slide down almost.
You know, and this is getting back to the primitive way, like I had said before. You know, growing up, that's all we had. So there wasn't, you know, we didn't have the money for an English wheel or any of that other stuff. So.
Thank you.
You know, and if you'd notice while he's doing it, the whole time that hammer's moving back and forth, that dolly underneath is sliding right along with it. You know, it's sort of an art to learning how to do this stuff. Getting there?
Yeah. Going. So now I got it close, but what I'll do is throw a tack down here to hold it, and then I'll
and
really
then you'll be able to hammer it on over, yeah.
Thank you. I'll put a little filler.
Sweet. Yeah, that's more than. Yeah, that's good right there.
You want that? I can get that a lot closer if you want.
That'll be good enough, I think.
Just time-wise.
Yeah, because I think you said we would just come back after the awards if people are still hanging around.
Okay.
You know, and then weld.
Yeah, because I mean, I still want to work that. I can close all that.
Close all that up, yeah.
Close all this in, close all that in, but.
Yeah, and obviously
nobody's gonna want to watch me.
You're watching him. You're watching him hammer, and he's not only taking from one. He's actually rolling both sides in together to
and he's
touch
closing that.
Right.
instead of pushing one down. A lot of people would just push on that.
Right.
You're taking the time to roll both sides, keep that 2%. You know, like
Sure.
the 2 line that you have the whole way down there on your gauge.
Right.
To keep it even the whole way down.
You can also hear the difference in my hammering, whether I'm hammering on dolly or off dolly, for 2 different reasons. If there's a low, I'll hammer on dolly to raise the metal back up and stretch it out to meet. But if it's too high, I'll hammer off dolly to literally just bring it back down.
Hit.
So it's like, yeah, there's like this gap here.
Right.
And now it's nice and closed in. The radius is nice and even.
Yep.
And then the
Keeps it
the weld will go right there. And then once you blend that out, which I'll show later, it'll be like it was never there.
Yeah.
You know. But this is where proper fitment comes into play. One, for a good enough weld to contain fuel.
That's right. That's what I was going to say is, especially on a gas tank where it's real critical that the you don't weld up a huge gap and get porosity in it, and something that could leak later on. That you take the time to get it to fit, where you can weld it properly, 100%. You know.
Yeah, no reason rushing through when you take the time. You're gonna end up with a better finished product.
Sometimes people will get like a tank sealer and put an epoxy on the inside. I pressure test all my tanks. I don't really use, the only time I ever seal the inside of a tank is on like an old rusty tank where it's something that just can't. But on a new tank, if you do proper welding, proper pressure testing and all that, I've built 100 tanks that never wound up leaking. But if you got to take that process, but that's one of the learning.
Make sure
And that sealer can be a double-edged sword because if it starts coming loose, I've seen a lot of them come loose.
Yeah.
You know, and cause a nightmare.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Are we ready to go to?
That's it.
What? I can't. What's that? Okay, well, we're going to take a break now. We're going to take a break from Greasy Gears for a minute. Get AMD. I see Dave Pierwood sitting here waiting to get himself up here. His bike show, the Cycle Source bike shows, or the paint show, Dave Pierwood's paint show. Cycle Source bike show is apparently ready. So whether we come back a little later with Dustin, Evan to be around for this, but we'll be seeing you here real soon. Thanks for joining us.